If we're gonna be honest, Ichigo's not a good main character because he has orange hair. I'm just kidding. Good anime. What makes an anime good? Is it the story? Is it the waifus? Is it the characters? Is it the soundtracks? Is it the openings? Well, I am here to answer this today with an unscripted video that I just thought of making. It is your boy Eddie Hates Anime here with a very serious topic because I'm always serious. Let's get right into the video. But before the video starts, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now, my inspiration for this video is because everywhere I go, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or real life, I hear people arguing about which anime is better than the other and reasons why the anime would be better, but their reasons are freaking stupid. Disclaimer, not trying to piss anybody off, just saying my take. But when I hear people saying that their anime is better than another anime, not saying names, because the anime's characters are stronger than this other anime's characters, I just think that's stupid because different animes have different power systems with different power levels. Some of them are over 9,000, some of them are not over 9,000. So comparing two totally different power scales is just something that you should never do. Because at the end of the day, when an author creates their characters, their universe, they don't think of these other universes that are already established and it's like, how could I make my characters comparable to these characters? No, they probably just want to do it according to their own universe. One thing about animes that you can use as a valid argument is animation. Sometimes people will say animation isn't a big deal, or it is a big deal. I'm kind of on the fence, because on one hand, I'm not going to let animation ruin my experience if it's not the greatest top tier animation ever. But on the other hand, I will very much notice if animation is not good. For example, the most notorious version of this would be Black Clover. Black Clover's animation has been getting better recently though, but as a manga reader and someone that does actually notice bad animation, the animation of the first parts of it is kind of whack, not gonna lie. But that's not the only reason why the Black Clover anime isn't as good as it could be. For example, it took them like 3 episodes to do the first chapter. That should never happen. So that leads into my next point, which is pacing. Anime needs good pacing. If it doesn't have good pacing, then you're following a wonky timeline that doesn't flow correctly and whatnot. Kind of like Naruto, which is another point that I wanted to bring in, which is filler. Naruto's time doesn't flow as good because of filler, even during the canon episodes. Let's say you skip all the filler episodes. Canon episodes still have a bunch of flashbacks and mixed canon, which means they mix in filler with the canon to keep it stretched as long as possible, which as a viewer that doesn't read the manga might find it a little bit weird on how the timeline flows because it keeps going back and forth between canon and filler, even if you skip the so-called filler episodes. So for something like Naruto, I would much rather read the manga because it has a better flow and a better pace overall. Another thing that makes anime amazing is characters. Some animes have bad characters, some have good characters. Extra plus if they have a good main character, because these days it's very hard to find a good main character. An example of a really good main character is none other than Light Yagami. Now Light Yagami is kind of a weird case, because to some people he's the protagonist, to some people he's the antagonist. I'm not going to be talking about that today, maybe another video. What I am talking about is the fact that he clearly shows his goals, he goes after them, and he has understandable morals. Not like other freaking protagonists like Deku, who's just like, I want to be a hero. And I'm not going to work towards that goal until all of a sudden All Might tells me I can be a hero and gives me the greatest quirk in the world. Think about it. If All Might hadn't shown up, would Deku have still gone out of his way to try and become a hero? Probably not. He was going nowhere with his notebook and whatnot. On the other hand, a character like Asta, even though he didn't know he was going to get the anti-magic and all that shiz, he was still one of the strongest characters muscle-wise in his verse. Meaning, he had to do some crazy-ass training to get to the level where he's at, even without his magic. That's a very good comparison between different main characters and why they can be good or not. And for every good protagonist, you need a great antagonist. It's kind of low-key the same as protagonist with the antagonist. They need to have good motives or at least understandable motives. It can't just be like, I want to kill people because I want to kill people. They need to have at least an interesting personality or powers. And the icing on the cake would be if they have an amazing connection to the main character. For example, good motives could be, another Death Note reference, Light or L, depending on who you see as the villain, both of them have understandable motives. Light wants to get rid of criminals, even though it might be in a way that people don't agree with. L, on the other hand, wants to stop Kira, who in his right is still doing stuff that's against the law. So either way, the villain, whoever you see as the villain, is still understandable. And when it comes to villains having a good backstory, look at someone like Garo. Garo is the hero hunter for a reason. As a kid, he was made fun of because he had to play the villain part in a game of heroes versus villains, and as he grew up, the heroes got everything they wanted, and just overall got so much more praise than anyone else, even if the heroes themselves weren't perfect. And that drove Garo to become not a hero, but a monster himself, because he always admired them anyways. Which, no, does not mean you should go out and become a monster and become evil, but you can kind of see where he's coming from when you watch his backstory. I didn't explain it the best. Go watch One Punch Man Season 2. And when it comes to a character with a good personality, an understandable personality, you get someone like Seto Kaiba, who isn't necessarily a villain as much as he is just an antagonist to the main character, but anyone can respect and understand him, as most of us sometime in our lives have one-upped us, whether it's in sports or card games or video games, and everyone finds that annoying when someone one-ups them, no matter how hard they try, and they go out of their way to try and beat this one person, but they never can. That is something that I personally can resonate with, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of you guys can agree with in general, and that's why he's a great character. And my last point for the antagonist role is that they need to have a good tie to the main character, which someone like Dio in part 1 had the most amazing connection to our protagonist ever. Him and Jonathan Joestar lived together for 7 years. They were brothers, and even though Dio didn't really treat him like a brother, Jonathan, as he's dying, says himself that he feels a warmth and a connection towards Dio, and even though Dio's done all this bad stuff, he's still glad to die by his side, together. Now, don't quote me on that because it's been a long time since I watched part 1, and I'm not reading off of anything right now. That's just what I remember. And Dio, on the other hand, even though he respects nobody, he says himself that he wanted to kill Jonathan in the most clean-cut way because he is the only person to ever beat him, fair and square, and he respected him for that. So when you see this back and forth between them throughout the whole entire part 1, you just get this crazy, like, feeling of, I don't know, nostalgia maybe, because you saw them when they were younger and you see them now. That's what I mean by a good connection to the main character, because they have this such a deep bond, such a bizarre, yeah, I know, bizarre, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, bizarre bond that can never be broken, no matter what. The last point that I want to drive in this short video would be the story. The overall story has to be good in an anime / manga for it to keep my attention. If I'm watching something and the slow plot keeps being slow, I'm not going to want to keep watching it. Something like One Piece would not be still running if it had a bad plot. One Piece has a great plot, which makes it okay for it to have such a long story, because you can't get that great plot without it being that long. This is what I mean. You need to be able to draw people in and keep them staying with the good plot, the good characters, all of this stuff that I mentioned already all together. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. But I also did want to mention I'm not going to watch an anime if it's like 5 episodes in and it's still crap. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. It has been your boy Eddie Hates Anime. Make sure to subscribe to this channel as well as my second channel, because sometime this week I will upload an anime opening karaoke video on that channel. So be sure to look out for that. Also subscribe to the Weeb World podcast and have a good day. Just keep on vibing. Cue the freaking outro. I got me a force of fire, so when they say pierce the fire, I'm a liar. I agree, cause I ain't a scrub for hire with the jojos dubs. Hey, I'm still a scrub. Wait, the fans who sucks? Yeah, they know what's up. They give me more comfort than my parents ever did. Didn't write a line or rhyme, so I say random shiz. Dr. Stone makes me feel like Sid the Science Kid. They call my shit trash when their content's hella mid. More mid than Dragon Ball. In a pool like Cannonball. Everyone hating